Hi, welcome for this new live stream, Behind the Music live stream on the YouTube channel of FaceCulture. Well, we have a very special guest today, way over the seas. We are in Amsterdam now, and he's somewhere in America. Well, we don't want to let you wait any longer. Let's see who we have in the live stream today.
Hello, everybody. Ron Bumblefoot Thal here.
Well, yes, here we have him. Hi, Ron Bumblefoot.
Hello. I'm staring up at the screen. I have it on over here so I can see the little chat window thing.
Yeah, but we can also let's say who we have. We have Damien here. Damien says to you, what does he say? He says, "Hi, Ron," and we have it here in our screen too.
Here we go. Hello, Damien.
Ron, how are you?
Good. I am good. It's a beautiful sunny afternoon in New Jersey. Yes. And I am in the studio. Let me see. You see part of a drum set over there, and that is it. Surrounded by guitars everywhere, and just writing, recording, mixing, producing, everything. Keeping busy.
Is there one specific project that you're working on right now?
Oh, a whole bunch. There is, let me see. Well, there is something that I'm doing with Derek. There is something I'm doing with the Art of Anarchy guys. There is my own stuff. There is a band called AD 2020 with Dan Reed. Okay. And we're slowly putting like a nice little album thing together. I'm doing some mixing and mastering and guest guitar solos, actually a whole bunch of those. What else? Usually with music stuff, you can't say because everyone wants it to be a surprise and they don't want it to be known what you're doing. And so I'm working on a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
So
well,
I always tell my own things. Like I'll say, yeah, I'm working on this song and I'll play parts of unfinished songs and everything. And doing that right now. I have a couple of songs that are just half complete that I have to finish up with solo stuff.
Yeah. Well, what we've done, we've compiled a short history of, we go with giant steps through all the things that you've done. Prior to this live stream, I asked you the question, well, is there one person that influenced you? Well, you said many, but if I have to pick one for now, I picked this one. So let's see who you picked.
So yes, and I still can't do that intro like him. Nobody can.
What? Why not? What makes Eddie Van Halen such a good guitar player? Mean Street we saw. What specifically this song and what makes him good?
His solo. I mean his soul. Sorry, his soul, his brain, his hands. You got to have a person's hands to sound like them, and only he has his hands. His sound, his tone that he got. He did things tone-wise that no one else did. His pocket and his groove, that more than anything else. His innovations, technically this way and guitar-wise, everything. There's so many things that made him such a unique player, just a one of a kind. and he inspired a whole lot of people. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna put on my little pitch. There we go. No one could do it like him. Just can't.
I think
I didn't tune down.
when you were, I think when this song was released, you were 12 years old, approximately. Was he the reason, or one of the reasons you picked up the guitar?
No, it was, I picked up the guitar when I heard Kiss Alive came out when I was 5. And that's what made me want to be in a band and make music and make people feel the way that made me feel. It was just the most energized, full of life kind of feeling that I ever got in all my 5 years of life. And I just wanted to make people feel that lifted up. So I started a band, and I wanted to be a drummer, but my brother wanted to be a drummer, so he became the drummer. So I wanted to be a bassist, and I went to a music store to start getting bass lessons and get a bass, but I was just a little 6-year-old kid, and they said, no, we don't have kid-sized basses. Actually, they didn't say that. That's what they were thinking. They said, we don't have kid-sized basses, but we want to get some lessons out of this kid. So they lied and told me and my mom that in order to play bass, you have to learn guitar for 2 years. And they had me buy a kid-sized little guitar, and I started studying all the academics, and I continued for many, many years. So yeah, all I knew is that I wanted to be one of those ingredients in a band that makes that happen. I wanted to be either John, Paul, George, or Ringo. I wanted to be Gene, Paul, Peter, or Ace. It didn't even matter as long as I was part of that team that made that happen. So Kiss and the Beatles for the love of music and just how incredible and beautiful everything they did was. And Kiss for that energy and just making you want to get on stage and the lights and the pyro and everything. So that was it. Yeah. So I started writing songs with what little, experience I had to draw from, and started doing that, and just didn't stop. Stayed with it.
You said the feeling that they gave you when you first saw Kiss. Can you describe that feeling that you yourself had and that you want to give other people? What is that feeling?
How do you describe it? Well, you know what? I can still, let's roll all the way back. I'm 5 years old. I'm with my friend Bob McTighe in his house, up in his room on the bunk beds, and we put on the Kiss album. We don't know what we're about to hear. It's just albums lying around that his older sisters got. And so this one, brand new album, came out. We put it on, and like kids would do in the 70s, you put an album on the turntable, and you sit on the bed and you stare at the speakers like you're watching TV, and you just listen to the album. And just hearing the audience, and Paul Stanley, hi, Phil, and all that. I felt like I was there, and it felt like the energy of thousands of people, and you're not just part of that, you are that. Like you are, like it's all one thing, and you are all feeling everybody's energy together. And I guess that's why people love concerts. You kind of get that if you think about it. It's not just you. You're part of something bigger than you, and it's like everybody's collective energy that's all being shared by everyone. So you have 1,000 people. It's not like 1,000 people each with one person's worth of energy. It's like 1,000 people sharing 1,000 people worth of energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you picked Eddie Van Halen, what sort of feeling did he give you when you heard, for example, Mean Street, or maybe the first album, maybe Eruption? I don't know, but
it was. I had never heard Van Halen before in all the years that they were around until I was 12, and I heard Mean Street, and I remember I was at a band practice. I was 12 years old. Up to that point, I was like a little Angus Young. I would just be stomping around and very kind of rock blues, like hyper blues. And then at band practice, there was some kid hanging out, and he said, "Do you know how to tap?" I was like, "No, what's that?" And he showed me, and he said, use your fingertip." So I remember he said, "You ever hear of Eddie Van Halen?" I was like, no, who's that?" And he showed me tapping, and I remember I was doing it backwards. I was like, "No, it goes this way." I was like, wow. And then he played me Mean Street was the first thing I actually heard. And when I heard that sound, I never heard a guitar sound like that. And it was like you suddenly had another flavor that you could taste. Like you saw another color that you never saw before. That's what it was like. It was like this whole other dimension to things that opened up that I suddenly saw. And I just felt so hungry for it. I was like, oh my God, this is like the greatest thing I've ever ingested. And I immediately just started digging in and got all the Halen albums. And I got on a cassette, I got Eruption. The kid, he made me a copy of Eruption on a cassette. So I learned it by ear, just learned the whole thing. And then I opened it up and flipped the reels, closed it back up. So now everything is backwards on the tape. And I learned it backwards. And like, that's how into it I was. I wanted to learn it forwards and backwards. And I started reading all the Guitar World magazine interviews he was doing. And just, it made me want to start tearing apart guitars and making strange guitars. And getting into different kinds of things and seeing what there is inside of me that is, what's the word? Everybody has something individual, identifiable about themselves, something that makes them them. So I started really searching, like, where am I in here? And how do I pull the most of that out? And I started doing all kinds of crazy things artistically to my guitars and just hacking them up and just doing all kinds of things, and started exploring musically too, just writing differently and getting into that and getting deeper and deeper into music theory and starting to screw around with it. So that's what Eddie did for me, is that it was almost like I got permission to just run free and dig deep.
Yeah, well, you've released many albums, of course, under under your name Bumblefoot. Well, we can't discuss every song and every album that you did, but there's one song that I would like to show now, and I think it's the first video that's actually on your YouTube channel. Do you know what it is?
The very first video would have to be.
Oh, don't answer the question. We'll see it right now. Yeah. This is the song Real from your 6th album, Normal, on 2005. This song, what if you listen to the song, what do you hear? What sort of person do you hear?
Yeah. So that, Real. I started writing a new album. I was really depressed, like seriously depressed. And I remember I started, actually, I couldn't write anymore. I just had nothing to say, and I was just, I was out of it. And I went on Zoloft to help get out of it. And I remember it just started working immediately. And I started writing this album called Normal, based on that. I was like, oh, wow, I'm starting to feel normal again. And I remember I just I started writing the first song on the album called Normal. And I wrote the first line of it. I just got new medication. And then I was done. And I couldn't write for like a year and a half. Like medicine actually blocked the creativity. And you realize that that's part of, like, what it blocks is the things you need to draw from. You need to experience life, and you need to figure out how to handle the dark stuff as well as the good, and to use it as fuel for making something that, if anything, not just helps you, but helps people that might be feeling the same things.
May I ask you what made you feel so bad, so depressed? Is it something deeply personal, or can you share it? What happened?
Oh, just a million things, just life, just life happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I've always had a problem with it. I've always had issues with depression. Some people do, just whatever reason, maybe you don't dribble enough serotonin naturally or whatever it is. But the music definitely helps. And if anything, I would say songwriting is like this big meat grinding machine that all that negativity, all the bad stuff, all the dark stuff goes in, and you grind out something that expresses it in some form of art in a way that kind of heals.
You said you stopped writing for 1.5 years. You wrote one line. What happened that actually, what made that 1.5 year block stop? What made it continue again, the creativity?
I went off the meds. But even still, I was having a hard time getting the momentum back. And then something happened. Someone attacked me legally, not illegally, actually, making threats, tried to extort and blackmail me. And okay. I was so pissed off that it got me out of it. I was so angry and so offended and just so filled with all of that negative stuff from that songs started pouring out of me. And one of the first ones was that song Real. And all the lyrics of that song are about that. So, but you dress it in something that's kind of fun. Like there's a certain, at least for me, I will take very dark subjects and dress them in something that's almost contrasting musically. So it has this sort of silly kid running around a room kind of energy that keeps speeding up and speeding up, with almost like this punk klezmer and just putting the words to it. And that's, I guess, kind of what I tend to do is, I guess, in a way of making light of the dark. So a lot of times I will take something that's dark that I need to get out for myself. And, I just surround it by something that almost pokes fun at it, makes light of it in some kind of way, and just sort of takes the venom out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one, well, then we go to the next video that we have. I think that brought you to the world stage. Only a few years later, we'll talk about it within 30, 40 seconds, but take a look at the next clip now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
How did this happen?
It was 2004, and I jammed with Joe Satriani at an arena in New Jersey. He called me up on stage to jam a song with him. And then soon after, someone asked him, said, "Hey, Guns is looking for a new guitar player. Who do you recommend?" And he recommended me. And then good 2 years later, there was a tour lined up, and we got together in New York for 7 little jams and hit the road for 8 years. and made an album and made some live DVD stuff and yeah.
What did you think when you grew up? Well, I think you were in your 20s when I mean, yeah, in your almost 20s when Appetite for Destruction was released. I think you were 18, 18, yeah,
17,
18.
17,
What was it? Yeah, was it an important band for you back then, or?
Yeah, it was. For everybody. When that album came out, it was one of those game-changing albums. And, my friends, we would jam at all the local clubs because in the late 80s, the scene was just thriving in New York and everywhere. Like, you go out a Saturday night and you go club hopping. And that means that you go to 6 bars that are all walking distance from each other, and they're pretty big places, and every single one has a live band playing in them. And that's how it was. And then you get together with your friends and you play them all too. So I had this one band, the weirdest band, was called Leonard Nimoy. And the singer was the radio host on the most popular New York college station. And it was WSOU, a guy named Dave Gizzo. And it was one of the only stations that played metal. And everybody listened to this station. It was the station, WSOU. So he was the singer. I was on guitar, and a bunch of friends on drums, second guitar, and bass. And we would just play a bunch of covers and just have fun. And we would just play Aerosmith, Scorpions, Kiss, and lots of Guns we would do. Everybody played Guns. Everybody loved Guns.
And when you were actually well hitting the road with them, what was it like? Was it fulfilling some sort of dream, or was it for you, well, natural, like the stuff that you did prior to that?
My dream was always to be in a John, Paul, George Ringo, not John, Paul, George, and the hired guy. Not to put it down and not to, understate the 8 years that I had with them. And I did write and play my own parts on Chinese Democracy. But for me, I needed to be a founding member and a writer of the music and a creative part of it. That's what I'm really saying, is that I need to be a creative part of it.
Yeah.
And, when I played with Guns, it was cool playing all the big stages and everything. Yes, that was wonderful. And it's what you aspire to as a kid when you start out. And I'll never forget, we had these big cannons that shot confetti at the end of the show. When I was 6, 7 years old, and we were putting on concerts in my basement, at the school we went to, across the street, in our backyards, on show day, I would have pieces of paper, and scissors, and I would cut up I would make my own confetti and put them into little cups so that all our neighbors that came to the show, when it's the last song, they would all throw the confetti in the air. And I remember just laughing to myself when the confetti cannons were going off, saying, I'm glad I didn't have to cut the confetti. Yeah.
But if you have to pick one word to describe those years, what word would it be?
Intense. Yeah. It was very intense. It was high highs, low lows, and everything in between, and I made a lot of good friends. And, I hate to say, I learned a lot of things because it's not supposed to be an education. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be there because you don't need an education, but you never stop learning, and that's the truth. And I got experiences and learned things that I didn't do yet. So that was good. But, at the same time, I was touring a lot before Guns, a good 10 years of international touring. I mean, I played Russia before Guns did, doing solo stuff, things like that. So it's not like I was completely inexperienced. I was just inexperienced at being a hired gun in a stadium band or an arena band. So with that was a whole new thing. Because for me, bands were your friends that you play together and you have this, this just familial kind of relationship, and you're not just brought in to play with strangers. And I have done that kind of thing as well, where I've been called in to play gigs, but never on something of such a big scale, and where it would be something that really, is the biggest thing that of notable name recognition or anything that I had done. So that was different, and there's lots that come with that you didn't expect.
Yeah.
So
last question about this: do you still speak to Exxon?
He's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing, and I wish them all the best. And I'm so happy to see how great they're doing with Slash and Duff, and I'm very happy for them. Yeah.
It's good. Well, let's go to the next fragment. It took you several years, but you did record an old album again.
Oh yeah, well, I was.
Let's go and take a look at it now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, a child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore. I once thought God was good and kind, then Mother Nature blew my mind and left my broken body on the floor. Now I don't know who to pray to anymore.
And just a funny message to everybody.
Okay, I think it was an album with a message too. To stick to the message.
Let's see, foot in mouth. There we go. Okay, so. Yeah, I was putting out lots of albums, and then with Guns, the touring really took off, and there wasn't a lot of time. But I did record an album called Abnormal we had this one break in between touring from 2007 to 2009. So during that time, I did an album called Abnormal, and I did an acoustic EP called Barefoot. So I did get those done. In 2011, during a break from touring, I was putting out a song every month. And I was doing the song a month thing that included transcriptions of the guitar parts and backing tracks and even stems, so that people could make their own mixes. And if they just want to play to it or sing to it, they can use the drums and the bass and rhythm guitar and add their own lead guitar, things like that. And after that, I did an album with a band called The Art of Anarchy, which I'm sure we'll get to. And so I was doing a good handful of things while still in Guns, but the first album that I put out that I was writing during the final touring, the final time with Guns, was that album Little Brother Is Watching. I had a few songs on there that I wrote with Guns in mind, thinking that there was the possibility, or I was led to believe there was the possibility, that we would be making some original music together. And so I had a few songs that were just kind of waiting. And when I realized that it wasn't going to happen, I moved forward with doing my own album with those songs. And that song that you just played was one of those songs that I'd actually written. It's like a 3-guitarist, the way Guns was, where one is doing the acoustic and the other is, and the other one doing the solo thing. And also there was another song on that album called Argentina that I had written with Guns in mind that eventually just, I made it my own. Yeah.
Was it good for you to actually to record those songs by yourself and say, well, this is good for me now, I'm not a hired guy anymore, just my own stuff, my own songs, message, you have a message within those songs?
I needed that. I did. For me, the most important thing, more important than playing live, is being creative and making something that isn't just for the moment, but is going to live beyond you. And that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I always wanted to do. I always loved producing, I loved recording, writing, creating. And that's the most important thing to me, and it always was. And being able to do that again, having just clear space and just being able to do that, it was, I needed that. Right. So I made that Little Brother album, and since then, another Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo and tons of guest stuff and all kinds of things. The Midnight Preachers, did some mixing for them. Good stuff.
Good stuff. Oh, you already mentioned certain things that we're going to show now. You named the Art of Anarchy. We'll take a look at, well, the band was formed in 2011, but it took you actually 4 years to release an album. Let's take a look at that, at a song. I think it's from the 2017 album, but let's take a look at the song. Yeah. How important was this, the Art of Anarchy?
It was an interesting thing. It goes back a long time. In the mid-90s, late 90s, I was producing this band from New York City, and it was two brothers. One played guitar, one played drums, and we always stayed friends and stayed in touch. We're like family. And then in 2010, 2011, they said, we got a bunch of songs we wrote. We want to get back into doing music again. And I said, come on over, and brought them into the studio and recorded their 10 songs. And I started adding guitar, and then it's like the three of us. And the idea was they just wanted to make their dream album that they always wanted to make. So we were going to have different singers on different songs, and started reaching out to different singers. And one of the first ones to do it was Scott Weiland. Yeah. And he did a song called Till the Dust Is Gone, and did such a great job. And then the people representing him, his people, suggested we make it a band. It was actually, the idea came from them. And they said, look, why don't we make this a band, and Scott Weiland will do the whole album. And so we all made a band member agreement that we all signed, and we were a band. And then we started looking for a bass player, and John Moyer joined from Disturbed. So now we're this band. I'm in Guns N' Roses, you got Scott Weiland, and you got John Moyer from Disturbed, and the two brothers that made it all happen. So then we got the album out. Then we got a manager. We were going to put out the album ourselves, and he said, no, let me get you guys a record deal and let a label handle all that stuff instead of it being on your shoulders. So we got a deal, and then put out the album. Had some singer troubles. Won't get
a little bit.
And then after the album came out, we were deciding, do we continue or do we just, let it go? And then our manager said, I have an idea. And he reached out to Scott Stapp. And Scott Stapp became the new singer of the band. And we made this album, The Madness, that came out in 2007, early 2017.
Was it strange for you? Was it strange because you worked with Guns N' Roses, you worked with Axl, and then you had these legal issues again with Scott and the team?
I didn't have any. I never had legal issues with Guns N' Roses.
No, sorry, not with Guns N' Roses. No. But I mean, you actually wanted to go pursue and have a real tight band and make the John, Paul, George, and Ringo vibe, and then this happened. Yeah.
Well, then Art of Anarchy was pretty much, it didn't start off with the intention of being a band. That's the whole thing. This was just something I was helping two dear friends make their dream album. But by the second album, it was a band. And the five of us were writing together, in a room together, writing and making demos and doing it all. So it was that. And then right before that Art of Anarchy album came out, Mike Portnoy sent me an email, said, hey, you know how we always talked about making a band together? Well, me and Derek have this idea. And at that point, me, Mike, and Billy had done a few things together already. We were the house band for this big event in New York City where like we were the core of the band, and guys from Anthrax and Kiss and everything, were jamming with us. We've done NAMM jams together. I did Progressive Nation at Sea where I jammed with Mike and Derek and Billy and Tony McAlpine. So like there was already something there, and that led to, yeah, let's do it. So that became Sons of Apollo.
Well, I think that's a nice bridge. And let's see, there's one person that you didn't name. Well, let's see if we have a secret guest now.
I had a feeling it would be him, and that's why I was waiting. There you are, brother.
You segued into that on purpose. I know it. I can see it in your eyes.
Yes, and then I was going to say, and then the one final member that joined the band
that killed
that made it a band that turned our weird, wacky stuff into singable songs, Mr. Jeff Scott Soto. Yes.
Jeff.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Yes, Jeff, thanks for joining. Well, Ron mentioned the John Paul George and Ron mentioned the John Paul George and Ringo vibe. When you joined, was it actually the John Paul George and Ringo vibe? Was it the band vibe?
Of course not.
You were hired to sing.
To be honest with you, the whole thing came about. It's kind of the same way Ron got pulled into the situation. My band Soto opened for Winery Dogs in South America in 2016, and my bass player, God rest his soul, David Z, was very good friends with Portnoy, and I would see Mike watching the band from the side of the stage pretty much at every show that we were doing with them. Now, coming to know Mike and coming to know Mike's personality and the fact that he's usually not that interested in other bands so much that, before his time in getting ready for a show that he's going to spend time watching the band. If he's really into something, then I know that he will watch the band and he will kind of soak up what's going on. So the fact that he was watching us pretty much at every show, I was like, man, I guess he really digs it, or he's just doing it because he knows David. What I didn't realize is Mike was pretty much scouting me for this new thing that Ron was just talking about. Mm-hmm. And I got the call. I got an email on my birthday in 2000, and I guess that year, 2016. I got an email from Mike saying, "Happy birthday. I'm going to call you in a couple days and tell you what your birthday present is." And I'm thinking, I barely know Mike Portnoy. What is he going to give me? Like one of his old Dream Theater drum kits, or is he going to send me some personalized sticks and stuff? I thought he was going to give me this great birthday gift that I had to wait to be told what it was. And he finally called me. I was actually flying out to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra tour, and sitting at the airport waiting for my flight. He basically told me what was going on with this group. This was before Ron was in. It was Tony McAlpine was part of it. They had already done a couple albums, but instrumentally, and they wanted to do the next album with vocals. And I was in. Should I accept it? I was in. There was no audition. There was no, let me send you some songs. Let's see if there's chemistry. It was, Mike knew I was the guy for this. And I entered the situation completely, I went in feet first. A couple of months later, I was informed that Ron was going to be part of it now because they wanted to make it more of a hard rock.
Okay, I'm just learning about all this.
Yeah. I was brought in when it was still PSMS.
Okay.
And it was later when I guess the discussion shifted that maybe because as much Tony's one of the greatest guitar players on the planet, absolutely phenomenal guitar player.
Tony.
But I think the guys saw that we had a little more hard rock credibility if we went with somebody like Ron, who was able to bring in, I don't want to say commercial, but more of a hard rock vibe, more so than because PSMS was more kind of fusiony, jazzy. It was very, very intense music. Whereas Ron could come in with that same intensity, but make it more song-oriented. And then I think that's where Ron was the only one in the band I had no history with. I never even met him until the 2017 Masters of Rock cruise. Okay, well, let's actually said hello to each other.
Let's talk about it later. But first, well, for people who don't know the band, let's take a look at a song.
Everybody knows Sons of Apollo.
Yeah, come on.
Going
In your circle of splendor, a room of pretenders. I'm sure we're not synced up at all.
Not at all.
Ron, if you
Don't want to know, yeah.
Ron, if you
It's been too long. I don't remember how to.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot the lyrics. I never learned them.
Ron, is it if you take a look at the song and if you think back to these times, what do you see? Was it a fun time for you?
It was. The fun was fun. Yes, the fun times were fun. Yeah, it was, getting a new band off the ground. It doesn't matter who is in it. It's a new band just starting out. So it was a lot of climbing the muddy, rocky hills to get things going smoothly. And by early 2020, they really were. Things really started inclining. And then something happened.
What they call a pandemic.
Yeah, usually it's just a bandemic. With a band. The vandemic, or the band in the van, the vandemic, and everyone's getting each other sick. So even with that, like, a pandemic is like just being on a very big tour, because normally the crew, half the band members, they never shake hands. They keep distance. I would wear a mask just because I didn't want to offend people with my breath. No, because I'm just trying to avoid getting sick and cigarette smoke and all kinds of stuff, because it's so easy to get sick. And if you want to see how a virus spreads, go on a tour, and within a week, everybody
gets it at some point.
Yeah.
What was it well for you with all those backgrounds that you had prior 10 or 20 years with other bands? What was it like to actually work on a first album together? Did it glue naturally?
Well, because it was, I'll answer it on my end. It was pretty, I don't want to say scattered, because obviously they did the music first. And when it was time for me to do the vocals on the first album, it was certainly more of a collaborative effort in terms of sitting in the control room with Mike and Derek, who had a vision for where they wanted this band to head, both vocally, thematically, all that stuff. So Ron's guitars were already there when I was doing my vocals, but I spent the first week in getting the vocals done with Mike and Derek. And then after that, we pretty much had almost everything done. And I kind of wrapped up and finished up the rest on my own. On album number 2, however, and this is before the pandemic, I was given a little more freedom I harnessed all the information on the new songs, and I was able to sit in this exact studio and knock them all out one at a time. I'd send them to everybody. We tweak and fix and discuss. And I kind of had a little more knowledge of where we were heading going into the future with the band after the first album. But the first album, it was definitely working with Mike and Derek, not so much with Ron, because his guitar parts were already done. And the next time around, we were absolutely more involved. And I would like to even see album number 3, but all of us in the same room coming up with things and kind of going over instead of doing it so individually. Yeah.
Well, you already mentioned the album is prophetically called MMXX 2020. Let's take a look at a song from it.
I can't believe Ron knows all these songs. It's crazy. It's insanity.
Well, Ron, you already mentioned it. What about the purple smoke?
There's a whole lot of purple smoke. That's why I wear the mask. There's so much purple smoke. And yeah.
No, but how do you look back on recording that album, and well, what happened afterwards that you couldn't tour it and stuff like that? What were your ideas?
You know, it was everything was finally clicking. Like everything was really coming together. Our audience has doubled in size. We were selling out shows. Everything was going great. And boom, 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 boom. And then we're in Europe as everything is happening, and shows are starting to shut down, and we don't know how long we're going to be able to stay out there and do shows before the plug gets pulled on us. And we got about 4 shows in, and then just quickly put all our things in a storage place and yep, and just got home right as, you know, just almost like watching like the gates close behind us, and got home before they shut down the US. And then I remember it's like, oh, we're just going to reschedule for for a few months from now. No. And then a year from now. No. And 2022, we have to change it to MMXXII. We have to change the album to.
Jeff, what was it for you? What was it for you this last year? And then, well, with everything happening with Sons of Apollo.
Well, yeah, in what we do as musicians, as creators, as writers, et cetera, I dove into creativity. I dove into staying as busy as possible, because music it sounds cliche, but in many respects, it's therapeutic. As a musician, as a writer, as a singer, the more I can do, the more I can be distracted from what's really going on in the world. And that's exactly what I did. A lot of us did that. And I dove into a couple different projects, some things I can't really discuss just yet. But for the most part, I stayed as busy as possible. And I wanted to make sure that not only was I needed to keep the income flowing, because without touring, we're just with our thumbs up our butts, and that's no fun.
I was selling my body, so I was doing okay. But
on the overall spectrum of what we were looking at not possibly getting out there for another year, as Ron said, and a year and then some, I knew I had to stay. I knew I had to stay as busy as possible, just to keep the sanity part of things in check.
Well, there's some other things that you did that kept you sane for at least, well, a few months, I think. Let's take a look at one of them.
He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, taking all his nowhere plans for nobody. Doesn't have a point of view, knows not where he's going to. Isn't he a bit like you and me?
Come on, ready? One.
And please listen. You don't know what you're nowhere man. The world is at your command. We're totally out of sync.
Out of time and out of key. Nowhere man can you see.
I'm not even going to try to lock in with you, because I have no idea if you're ahead of me or behind me. Like always, like in real life.
It sounded okay. It sounded okay. Well, of course, Beatles. Jeff, what do you have with the Beatles? And because you also recorded and I think, well, the three voices, they sound pretty cool together. Jeff, what do you have with this? What with the Beatles and with this song, Nowhere Man?
It's certainly it's a given that every musician on the face of the planet is influenced by the Beatles. Whether you love them, whether you hate them, whether you only like a few songs, you know them. They're in your DNA regardless, because the Beatles were one of the most important groups in not just pop history, but in music history. So naturally, they're injected, their inflections, and they're in everything that we do and everything that we are today. And Nowhere Man was actually a song that we used to sing backstage, just kind of goofing around. You know, one would start singing it, and then it would turn into a 3-part harmony. And one time we actually did that backstage after a gig. We were meeting our guests, and all of a sudden we start singing this a cappella of Nowhere Man with no music or anything, and it was people like, oh my God, these guys, they must rehearse. Like, no, we don't. We just it's in our blood. We do what we do. And from that, that's what we decided to make the quarantine video, one of the first ones that we all started doing, to kind of keep ourselves busy. We did because actually because was a dare of mine. Somebody said, if you were going to do another one, what would you want to do? And I said,
keep talking, keep going.
I said, when we went to go see the Beatles' Love, the Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas.
In my Jeff Scott Soto hat. There we go. All right, now continue. I'm sorry.
The Love show in Vegas, the opening number, the way that show opens is an a cappella of the song Because. And I was like, oh my God, I was just blown away how great it sounded with no music. It was just that. So I basically said, if we ever do another one, we have to do the a cappella version of Because, the same as they did it in the Cirque du Soleil show. The guy said, yes, let's do it. Yeah. It's way too early for me to be singing right now.
Yeah. Well, let's see. What are your thoughts? What are your plans for Sons of Apollo? If we have, let's say, if the pandemic, will end within half a year, for example. What do you think? What are your plans with Sons of Apollo?
More rescheduling for 2022, and seeing what shows can survive until 2022.
And to be honest with you, I was surprised we didn't utilize our time to pump out a new record, because obviously this would have been the best time. The fact that we're all stuck at home, we could have done it. But one thing out of that, we wouldn't have had the luxury of doing exactly what I said, that maybe it would have been nice for all of us to get together and do it comfortably and safely. But number two, I'm glad we do a new album, because I feel we've left some unfinished business. The fact that we were only able to do a week and a half of touring the US and 4 shows in Europe for that album, I would rather go out and tour that album before we move forward, because there's a lot of material that was going to have to be cut. If by doing 3 albums, we have to start saying, oh, we got to do majority of songs from this, and then it's only going to be a few from that. I think MMXX is such a strong record. I wouldn't know what to cut, and I would hate to see the show compromised by having to cut a lot of the songs that we wouldn't be able to do live by having a 3rd record. So as far as I'm concerned, there are 2 reasons why there's no new record now. We have unfinished business, and I think a 3rd album would be better suited if we could do it together.
Yeah. Do you agree, Ron?
Not at all. No. No, I do.
Yeah, you do. Jeff, may I thank you for being our secret guest today?
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
I have a feeling Ron was not that surprised. I have a feeling
it's a gut feeling.
Well, I didn't tell him, so it's just right. Then his gut feeling is pretty good then.
He's got ESPN. So
yeah. It's good. Thank you, Jeff.
You're very welcome.
See you soon, man. I'll see you in
soon.
Texas.
See you in a month.
Yes.
Ron and I doing a show together near Houston at the end of April. So it's going to be our first outing. Well, my first outing, really. He's done a couple with Ellefson and probably some other things, but it's going to be our first kind of outing together. Mm-hmm. And let's see what happens with that.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
See you soon. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
What a nice surprise.
Yeah. Was it a surprise or not, Ron? Not really, I think.
Well, if I had to guess, I would have guessed him, but right. I didn't know. I don't know. Just a gut feeling, and the gut is never wrong.
No, that's good. Well, you have your acoustic guitar on your lap. We have listened. Yeah, we have seen many electric songs, hardware songs that you've written. We'll take a look at the next video at an acoustic side of you.
Nice.
Blue jean baby, LA lady, seamstress for the band. your eyes. There's no disguising it.
Really comes as no surprise. Find that you planned it all along. Yeah.
It's
Asia.
Asia. Yeah, I know. It's something that you're also involved in. But let's take a look at what does an acoustic guitar the Barefoot acoustic EP3. What does an acoustic guitar give you singing the acoustic songs? What does it do to you?
There's a lot more space sonically for dynamics. There's not this big wall of sound that you have to keep up with. There's room. You could get a lot quieter, a lot louder. There's just more dynamics that can happen. And the guitar itself is just a more organic sound, and just everything just feels a little less, well, plugged in. It feels a little more just in the room, organic, natural. There's something very natural about it. And I love it. And I love to break down songs to the things that make them what they are. And do it on an acoustic. You get to really appreciate all the interweaving melodies and rhythmic things and everything that happens when you just kind of clean it up with this.
Yeah, there's certain songs that you did. Well, you did a song of Soundgarden, "The Day I Tried to Live," for example. Some other songs. What is the one song that you say? Well, what you just explained. If you can play it and explain it to us while showing us the song. Is the one song you say? Well, this is.
Ooh, okay. What is like one song that is a very good example of that? Okay. Well, I did a version of "Come On Eileen" on that 3 album. So in the recording, there's like banjo and there's piano and there's so much going on and instrumentation and everything, and to just have all in a guitar with just a fiddle. So you have one guitar that's could be going like. And you have the main melody. And then the piano slides down. Actually, I'm in the wrong key. But anyway, you have then, so you have the piano going up. You have that going in there. It's hard to do it one guitar because in that song I did 3, but that's the whole idea, is that you can put them all in there and hear them all distinctly and clearly and appreciate them from a playing point of view and a writing point of view. Like, oh, that's so cool that they did that. And then just trying to tap into the vocal sound like this. Each singer, they have such a unique way that they're going to resonate. You have Asia, you had John Wetton, who is more of this kind of back of the nose is very open and chesty and kind of back. You're leaving now, like that kind of sound. But then you have, Poor Johnny Ray, which is a totally different kind of tone where it's closing the nose and more in front. And then you have something like, on that album, I also did a version of, what key was that in? Shaka Khan, tell me something good. And it's a totally different feel, and it's more open and, and it's higher range. So all of that, like you just really get to dissect and appreciate what makes the song what it is from a writing standpoint and a tonal standpoint and everything. Is there one
thing that you picked from each song? You say, well, this is something that if the songs that I picked for the Barefoot EP3, they all have this in common. Are they all? That's something that I look for while doing this.
Let me look at Barefoot 3. Bumblefoot, so I can remember every song that's on there and really just take a look at them and get them back in my brain completely. Okay. One thing I could say, like if I go song by song, well, Tiny Dancer. So that one, I never noticed how much little string lines were in there. Like, there's like there's all those things throughout it. And having a third guitar that was doing that. I divided the piano into left hand, right hand, when one is going, and the other's doing what the right hand did, putting them together, panning them slightly to get the feel of exactly what the piano was doing. And then a third guitar would do all the extra overdubs, which happened on a guitar and in strings. So that, I would say with Tiny Dancer, for me, noticing more what the strings were doing, all the little stuff in there, you know. I feel shy. So that kind of thing. What else? Did I try to live? There were just little subtle things that would happen in that. You had the one guitar going. What the others do? What else? Let's see.
Well, we can help you because Robin, who is doing all the inserts for the videos, Robin, I think maybe we can do now the one that we talked about that we would want to leave out, but maybe we can show it now because then we will help Ron actually explaining what he does.
I see it now, become so clear, your insincerity. Starry-eyed, think that I would have known by now. Now, sure is the sun across the sky. This night is over, lost like the tears that used to tide me over.
Yeah. So that one, yeah, there's so much. I mean, that's a perfect example of just building layers.
Yeah.
Also, if you have the keyboard. So you got to go and get that in there. And then you have just the guitar doing that kind of. And then another guitar comes in high. Yeah, so that's a good one. That's a good example of the layering that happens that song.
Yeah, and what did well, you did the release this album. What you when we started this live stream, you said that you are working on many projects. Well, you can't disclose all of them now, I know. If you look back now on this year, what sort of feeling do you get? Is it a strange year for you? Was it pretty normal seeing regarding the circumstances, or?
You know, I've lost more people in the past year than I have in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Family, friends, and, you know, family of friends and friends of family. Yet even with that, this has been the most stress-free year I've had in a very long time. And it's the first year that I feel like I'm actually alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize how I was just this robot on a hamster wheel, just touring. And just having this unexpected gift of time and being free to use it and to not use it, to appreciate just, sometimes you got to do nothing. And it's not a crime to do that. That's the one thing is that I think a lot of times as musicians, we think that if a day goes by that you don't get something done, play a show or write a song or something that you're throwing away your life, you're wasting, no. Sometimes just being is enough. And just taking a moment to just do nothing. Because a lot goes on during the nothing. It does. Good things happen during the nothing, during the spaces.
What did it do to your creativity?
I think it freed my soul a little bit. I think I have more of a sense of peace than I've had in a very long time. One that I really needed. It's given me a chance to just feel like a person again, like me, yeah. And that's just the best way to describe it, is that I feel like I finally am at peace. And I haven't felt that forever. So I needed this. And yeah.
If you say this, you said while growing up and the feeling that Kiss and the music gave you, you said you are at peace now. Do you still need the music?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I do. Yeah. But as far as playing shows and just being on that hamster wheel at the same speed, I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. It's not healthy. And I would rather spend another 20 years pacing it and enjoying it and putting out things that, writing more music and teaching more and helping other people with their music than just burning out. Yeah.
I think it's a nice ending, Ron.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we have a song that we want to end this show with. I think it sums up what happened the last year. For now, thanks, and I hope you will keep your peace, even when everything is rolling again. How do you stay more not tapping into the same wheels again?
I'm just gonna say no to certain things more, and I'm just gonna keep space as more of a priority on the list. I'm gonna include it more. I'm not gonna fill every moment with busy stuff. Spread it out. Have moments in between to just live.
Thank you, Ron. Wise words to end with, and talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And thank you everybody for watching. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, like Ron said, thank you for watching. And there's one song that maybe sums up last year, and let's take a look at it.